Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of Malahide Council on June 6th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:32. We'll begin the agenda with disclosure of pecuniary interest. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have the D2 and 3, the Ketchabah Drain, the Priester Drain, and E2, the Wagler Bender petition and fair petition.
Thank you. Those are noted. Next, we'll move to the approval of our previous meeting's minutes it was a meeting of May 16. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, may I have a resolution?
That the minutes of the regular council meeting of council held on May 16, 2024 be adopted as printed and circulated.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Councillor Cerna moves. Councillor Leach seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Next, we have a public hearing. So council will adjourn its regular meeting in order to sit as a committee of adjustment under section 45 of the Planning Act. Clerk Adams may have the resolution for that.
That the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Malahide be called to order at 7:33 p.m. and that Mayor Dominique Giguère be appointed chairperson for the Committee of Adjustment.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Cerna moves. Councillor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That's carried. So the purpose of this hearing is to consider an application for a minor variance as submitted by Charles Terry and Lori Latvala relating to the property located at part unnumbered lot NS Water Street, ES Victoria Street, PL 55, Township of Malahide, Part 2, 11R 6342, Part 3, 11R 6923, known municipally as 49332 Dexter Line. Mr. Steele, can you provide an overview of the application, please, and welcome.
Thank you. Your property at 49332 Dexter Line currently contains a single detached dwelling and existing detached garage. The owners are seeking to attach the two buildings with an addition. The existing detached garage currently has an existing setback of 0.5 meters to the interior side yard. As a result of attaching the structures, it would trigger a new or different side yard setback requirement under the zoning bylaw. And so under the bylaw, technically a variance is required to permit the addition. Additionally, the farmer's application would seek an increase in lot coverage from the existing 39% to 43%, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage of 30% in the BR2 zone. Staff have reviewed the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance application as set out under the Planning Act, and staff are of the position that the application meets all the applicable criteria. No comments were received at the time of submitting this report. However, comments have since been received from Catfish Creek Conservation Authority, noting they have no objection to the application, but do know that any development on the property would be subject to Conservation Authority policies and regulations. And as a result, staff are recommending that the minor variance application be approved, subject to typical standard conditions. And that concludes my presentation. I'd have questions from members of the committee.
Thank you. Before opening up to the committee, does the applicant or the agent wish to add anything? Okay. And Clerk Adams, can you let us know if there were any additional comments received from the circulated agencies or landowners that were not outlined in this summary so far?
There were no additional comments received.
Anyone else in attendance wishing to comment on this application? Not seeing anyone. So I'll turn to committee members. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any questions nor comments. So thank you to everyone in attendance. And so I'll now ask the committee to make the decision on the application. And Clerk Adams, can you read the resolution for that, please?
The report number DS 2427 entitled Minor Variance Application of Charles Terry and Lori Latva relating to the property located at part unnumbered lot NS Water Street, ES Victoria Street, PL 55, Township of Malahide, Part 2, 11R 6342, Part 3, 11R 6923, 49332 Dexter Line be received, and that the minor variance application number D13 MV 0324 of Charles Terry and Lori Latva relating to the property located at part unnumbered lot NS Water Street, ES Victoria Street, PL 55, Township of Malahide, Part 2, 116342, Part 3, 11 R 6923 be approved for the reasons set out in this report, and that the approval shall be subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner applicant obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years from the date of decision to the satisfaction of the chief building official, ensuring that the approved variance applies only to the proposed accessory structure as illustrated with the application, and that 2, the structure be constructed as per the details shown in the drawings as provided with the application, site location, and architectural detail to the satisfaction of the chief building official.
Thank you. May I have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Lewis moves, and Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. May I have a resolution now for the Committee of Adjustment to adjourn?
That the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Malahide be adjourned and council meeting reconvene at 7:38 PM.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? And that's carried.
Read that address. You did a good job.
Thank you for your attendance. Have a good evening. So next on the agenda, we have a meeting to consider. First is the Ketchuba drain. So for that, we have Mr. Spreet will walk us through a description of the proposed project. Welcome, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight's meeting is the consideration of the Ketchuba drain. So this deals with the construction aspects. After this meeting, if it gets passed, we'll have another meeting and that will deal with the cost. That'll be the quarter revision. That'll be in 20 to 30 days from this meeting. So what we're proposing to do tonight is we've had a request from Mr. Forney and from Pearl Family Farms on the south side of Crossley Hunter line. And they requested improvements to the drain south of Dorchester Road, including Dorchester Road. The existing drain was built in 1969, is undersized by today's standards. So what we're proposing to do is start at the West Catfish Creek and replace the main drain and Branch B drain with a concrete tile drain, much bigger than the existing drain. Furthermore, through the lands of Mr. Forney, where he has a lot of erosion on the main drain, we're going to put a grass waterway in. So that will reduce the erosion, and any water that's in excess that the tile can't handle will flow over ground safely and minimize erosion on his lands. Are there any questions?
First, from members of council, any questions on the proposed design and construction? Not seeing any questions from council members. Are there any comments or questions from anyone in attendance? While we have the engineer on the line? Yes, please go ahead. If you can introduce yourself, name and address.
Brian Lunn. We own the farm. Oh, sorry. We own the farm right across on the north side of Crossley Hunter line. And our only concern is this last, excuse me, this last rain we have pictures showing the water that is sitting on top of the ground. So we just want to make sure that when they fix this drain, I understand they're just coming across the highway and putting catch basins in, and then our drains drain into those things. That our drains are free, are clean enough, and we get this water away from our place too.
Thank you. for
Through your
that.
worship.
Yes, please go
Um,
ahead.
Yeah, I believe that the new drain will be substantially better than the existing drain. The tile sizes are much larger. On the main drain, we have a 450 millimeter tile coming to the road previously, or 400 millimeter tile coming to the road. Previously, we had a 250 millimeter tile. That's approximately 2 times larger than what was there now. And on the branch B, we have a 350 millimeter diameter drain, and we currently only have a 200 millimeter diameter drain. So I think that's really going to improve the situation here.
Thank you for that clarification. Does that answer your concern? Yeah. Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay. If I'm not seeing anyone else who wishes to speak, then we'll entertain the motion.
That the engineer's report for the Ketchiba Municipal Drain be accepted and that bylaw number 2429, being a bylaw to provide for the Ketchiba Municipal Drainage Works, be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Glinski moves, Counselor Cerna seconds, all in favor? That's carried. And the next motion in that regard?
That the Court of Revision for the Ketchiba Municipal Drain be scheduled to be held on July 4th, 2024 at 7:30 PM.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Leach seconds, all in favor? That's carried. And the last resolution?
That the tenders for the construction of the Ketchiba Municipal Drain be requested for June 24th, 2024 at 11 AM.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Leach seconds, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Spree.
Thank you. Thank you.
And this evening, we have a second meeting to consider. This time is the Priester Drain, serving parts of Lot A, concession 10 to 12. Mr. DeVos, walk us through the proposed project, please.
Hey, thank you. This report was prepared in accordance with both Section 4 and 78 of the Drainage Act, which is Section 4 was the initiating landowners on the Malahide side of Pegram Line petition for a new municipal drain. Currently, the area between Lions Line and Century Line is served by an old award drain. So there is a tile there, but it's 1903. So it's been around a long time and quite undersized. So the owners asked for a new municipal drain to be constructed through their lands. The drain itself ties into the existing Priester drain. So drain E of the Priester drain. And when you look at today's design standards, it's newer compared to some, but still outdated in terms of its size and does need to be improved. So we are looking to both replace the award drain, the old Wilson award drain, refer to it as the Wilson branch of the Priester drain, and then put a second tile beside the existing Priester from the Pegram Line down to where another portion of the Priester comes in, drain A, and then replace one of 3 tiles that are side by side in that area. So the oldest tile would be removed and replaced that last couple hundred meters at the bottom. The pipe sizes range from 8 inches to 30 inches in diameter. There's a lot of fall, there's a lot of drop from Lions Line down, and there's erosion on top of the ground that's to the point where even if we put in new municipal tiles, they're still considered low flow pipes, and there still will be significant amount of surface water that the landowners also requested us to put in what we refer to as wascobs, which are berms, which hold water back during a larger rain event. So your objective is now to stop water from moving over top of the ground too. They did not want to have a grass waterway if they could help it, but the berms will hold and pool the water behind the berms and let the drain catch up over a 24-hour period and empty the pools of water on the upstream side of the berms. So we have 4 of those that are being proposed as part of the report, and they'll have catch basins in front of them. They'll be part of the drain. If you get a really, really large rain event, there may be some water bypassing them and some maintenance required to it. They're not maintenance free, but neither are grass waterways. Grass waterways eventually get topsoil in them and need to be regraded as well. So it's certainly better than nothing, but it's not maintenance free. And the landowners were provided all the information and they asked us to proceed as proposed. So I'll stop and open up to questions.
I'll start with questions or comments from members of council. Not seeing any. Anyone in attendance wishing to comment or ask questions, clarifications? This evening, as was mentioned, we're discussing the construction. And at a later stage, we'll discuss the assessment. So any questions or comments on the design? Yes, please.
comment would be.
If I could ask, just for the record, if you could go to the microphone, so everyone who's watching will be able, and if you can introduce yourself.
I'm Wayne Rocks. We're in the watershed to the east of where this drain is going to start. But on the top end, there's a lot of fall there, like Mike said, from the Lions line south down to the fence line, the first fence line. In my opinion, I've been involved in a lot of municipal drains on my farms over the years. And because there's so much slope there, that grass waterway is the best thing, I think, to do there. Because the water, there's nothing to stop the water from running. So the grass waterway holds the soil, and that's kind of what we want to preserve as much as we can. So I don't know, I know they're like, there's maintenance to them. They're not maintenance free, like Mike said. And yeah, these catch basins aren't maintenance free either. If there's no grass waterway there to hold the soil back, the water rushes to where the catch basin is in the berm, the soil settles down and it builds up over time. And I know we got them different ones on our farms, and yearly I clean them out in front because they get high and the water runs around again and it'll wash the berm out. And so I know this all from experience. So it's just something that we have to deal with and work around. But in my opinion, it's a better way to do it, but it's whatever they want to do, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your experience with that area. Mr. DeVos, do you want to?
Yeah, I would just say
comment on
that, yeah, I agree with the comments. You know, the landowners did request the WASCOBs. They will certainly help. They will hold back water. They are designed to roughly a 10-year storm. So you will see once in a while the storm event exceed that. But the duration and the intensity and the amount of water going over top will be less. Is it going to be 100% sufficient? The landowners will have to be the deciding people on that particular drain. They do require maintenance, so you do need to monitor the catch basins, make sure they're clean. If they do get clogged with bean stubble or corn stalks, we need to keep them clean, because otherwise nothing will go into the pipe, and the water in front can't utilize the pipe itself. So it is going to require monitoring and active maintenance on it.
Thank you for that. Any
Your
further comments?
worship,
or questions?
if I could add?
Yes, Mr. Lopez.
Yes, good evening. I just wanted to add a note. Landowners are free to install their own grassy swales at any point in time. It won't be part of the municipal drain itself, but they're certainly welcome to do that.
Okay, thank you for adding that. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, may I have the resolution for the consideration of the project, please?
That the engineer's report for the Priester drain be accepted, and that bylaw number 2431, being a bylaw to provide for the Priester drain works, be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? That's carried. And the next resolution?
That the Court of Revision for the Priester drain be scheduled to be held on July 4th, 2024 at 7:30 PM.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That's carried. And the last one?
That the tenders for the construction of the Priester drain be requested for June 24th, 2024 at 11 AM.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a nice evening. Thank you, Mr. Lopez, as well. And those in attendance, thank you. You're welcome to stay. Enjoy the evening. So next on the agenda, we move to reports of departments. The first report is the fire apparatus replacement, Director Spoor. Please,
Good
tell us
evening.
the good news.
Good evening, council. Today's report here is for the council's approval for the replacement of our tanker that we've approved in the budget this year. In 2023, council authorized me, the fire chief here, to begin the process of replacing the tanker for Station 3. Throughout 23 and into the 24, staff have worked on the specifications for the new tanker. Given the significant rise in costs of fire apparatus, staff explored several options to stay within budget while meeting the fire department's needs. During a county chiefs meeting late last year, we identified with our other chiefs close by with West Elgin and Bayham that they were also in purchasing a tanker as well this year. Truck committees from all three municipalities met to discover potential cost savings through a multi-truck purchase. We engaged several truck manufacturers and received quotes, securing a proposal through Canoe procurement, the Canoe procurement process. Although new to our township, this process has been successfully used by our neighboring municipalities. Participating in this group purchase, we achieved a total cost savings of $106,352, which equates to about $35,450 per truck, contingent on all three municipalities approving the purchase. West Elgins has approved their purchase in their last council meeting. Bayham is also putting theirs forward tonight in tonight's meeting. The collaborative purchase not only benefits us financially, but also enhance our operational capabilities with our mutual aid partners. I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the overview. Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through to Jeff. Jeff, you did a good job on this. You really went above and beyond and saved us some money, and that's great. That's what it's all about. I see it's 725 days from the time of executing the purchase order, so that's quite a ways off, eh?
Yeah, you through your Madam Mayor. The 725 days is an estimated time. I have seen the times coming down dramatically in the last little bit. I think the orders have slowed down a little bit, which has stabilized the pricing as well for us. The chassis were the issue before, where they're waiting for a long time. They're anticipating we'll probably still see the chassis by the end of this year still. So once the chassis are in place, they'll put the trucks through. All three trucks will be going through the assembly line like one after the other because they're all identical. So.
Okay, that's great. And like you say, that's a really good price because I've heard other municipalities what they were paying lately. And
yeah, we had a dramatic range in our pricing we got to. So the highest was like $1.1 million for the exact same spec and basically the same truck. So we were pretty happy that we got back to where close to where our budget was. So.
Okay, great. Good job. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Basically, Deputy Mayor Widner took the words out of my mouth, but
We shut too close.
no, it's all right. It's great to have collaboration like that, and when we've got identical trucks to the others, it makes the compatibility just great.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? Seeing none, we have the motion, please.
The report number F-2405 entitled Fire Apparatus Replacement received, and that the municipal staff be authorized and directed to purchase from Commercial Emergency Equipment Company one maxi pedal pumper tanker based on the specifications outlined in the attached proposal in the amount of $738,491.23 plus applicable taxes to replace the 2004 tanker currently in service at Station 3. And that the purchase of such pumper tanker for Station 3 be financed wholly from the approved 2024 capital budget.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wilson moves, Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Great work. We'll move to Director of Public Works, beginning with the petition for drainage. Mr. Godby, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Report PW 2420 is a petition for drainage by Wagglers and Benders. Essentially there, if you look at page 41 of your agenda, you can see the map. There are 3 properties there south of Glen Cullen line at Carter Road. All 3 property owners have petitioned to have the drainage in the area improved. Essentially, we're looking at what will likely be about some sort of 800-meter-ish extension to, or branch or new drain tying into the Iker drain. So the purpose of this report is to receive those petitions and assign John Spreet of Spreet Associates to prepare an engineer's report. If there are any questions, myself or Mr. Lopez, who's still online, are happy to help.
Thank you for this overview. Any questions or comments? Councillor Leach.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Godby. Is there any existing drainage in that area, or it's never had any drainage plan previous to this?
Thank you, Councillor Leach, through the chair to you. I'm going to defer this to Bob. He knows the situation a whole lot better than I do. So
Through you, Your Worship. Councillor Leach, the Iker drain is a drain that services properties to the east of these 3 properties. It comes up and crosses College Line and then goes on the north side of College Line. So there is a drain in the area. It is in the watershed. These 3 properties are in the watershed for this particular drain. So the engineer will determine the best route to install a new branch, whether it's straight east to the existing Iker drain, or they may recommend a different drain altogether. So it's up to them to sort of plot the course of the new drain.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, may I have the motion, please? Clerk Adams.
That report number PW 2420 entitled Petition for Drainage Wagler Bender be received, and that John Spreet of Spreet Associates be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for the Wagler petition.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Councillor Serna moves. Councillor Glinski seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we have a second petition for drainage this evening. Mr. Godby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, PW 2422 is a petition for drainage from the fairs. Essentially, this is to satisfy the condition of severance for a severance that has been previously approved, creation of 2 new lots. They are going to be looking to have a positive drain connection in order to have legal outlet for these 2 newly created lots. So in order to do so, they have petitioned to have a drain connection to the Leonard Jones drain. And the purpose of this is to assign John Spreet of Spreet Associates to prepare that engineer's report. If there's any additional questions, myself or Bob will gladly help.
Team effort tonight. Any questions or comments? Fairly straightforward. So if there are no further questions, Mr. Lopez, anything you want to add while we have you?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. This particular drain is in very close proximity to these 2 proposed building lots. So it won't be a very long ways to go to get a sufficient outlet for these two new properties.
Right. Thank you for that. So may I have the motion, please?
The report number PW 2422 entitled Petition for Drainage Fair be received, and that John Spreet of Spreet Associates be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for the fair petition.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Lewis moves, Councillor Glinski seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And next still from our Director of Public Works is an update on the College Line reconstruction change of scope.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, PW 2425, College Line reconstruction, change of scope, is essentially the formalization of something that I think you've all been generally aware of, over the past couple months when we talked about our surface treat program. Really what we're looking at here is to change the scope of work that we had under our 2024 surface treatment program. Currently, that program was scheduled to do the section of College Line from Springwater Road to Rogers Road and Dorchester Road from College Line to Ron McNeil Line. We are proposing that those sections be removed from the 2024 program. And instead, we would like to complete College Line from Imperial Road to Hacienda Road. But we will keep Dorchester Road from Ron McNeil to Mapleton North within the 2024 program. The reason for all this being that there is a development application coming. It is, in talking with the planning staff, it will be before council through the summer at some point. And that is occurring at that kind of block at Dorchester Road and College and Ron McNeil. So in order to make sure that there's not any other drainage conditions that may get imposed when this development moves forward or other road upgrades required, anything like that, we just thought it would be best that we just steer clear of the area, let this development proceed and see how that all shakes out. And we will revisit the surface treatment and reconstruction of this section of road at a later date. If there's any questions, we'll gladly help.
Thank you. Seems to make sense. Any questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Here to Jason. Jason, you planning on doing the road the same as you did College Line West, like make it wider and ditching and all that kind of stuff?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. That is correct. I was talking with Ryan about it. There's a minor widening to happen through that, but essentially what was done to College last year, the plan is to kind of carry that through all of College Line. So we're going to be replacing all the culverts, some minor widening. They're going to pulverize the existing base, add some more gravel and kind of touch all that up and then put a double surface treatment on that entire road.
Okay, thank you. Because the width sure makes a big improvement for moving machinery around. So, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, may I have the resolution, please?
That report number PW 2425 entitled College Line Reconstruction Change of Scope be received and that the change of scope for the 2024 reconstruction of College Line be approved as outlined in this report.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Lewis moves. Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Guppy. I'll start that over. And we'll move to our Corporate Services Department report. This evening, we have the Asset Management Plan update. Welcome, Talia Jones, our Asset Management Analyst, and Director Boylan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council. Before you is a report outlining the 2024 updates to the township's asset management strategy. There are also 3 revised asset management plans and this brief presentation. The purpose of asset management is to form a tactical plan for managing the assets necessary to deliver a standard of service in a sustainable way. The Township of Malahide is committed to using asset management to improve long-term financial planning, to ensure service standards are met, and to achieve the township's strategic goals. Ontario Regulation 588-17, Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure, requires an asset management policy and plan for municipal assets. With the policy adoption in 2019 and the plan adoption in 2022 for core assets, roads, bridges and culverts, water and wastewater, this next step towards compliance is to include all remaining assets and their current levels of service. The newly included asset categories are fleet, guide rail, sidewalks and streetlights, facilities and public spaces, and equipment. In order to better communicate the township's strategies towards asset management, this revision has also separated water and wastewater assets into their own individual plans. An asset management plan must include 4 components: an inventory of assets, a description of the levels of service provided by assets, a forecast of life cycle asset costs, and a funding strategy. While updating the 3 plans, improvements were made to the data collection process, resulting in more accurate inventories and current replacement costs. The township currently owns over $600 million worth of capital assets, with the majority belonging to the roads asset category. The condition status of these assets was determined through a combination of inspection-based methodologies and age-based estimates. Specific to each asset category, inspections range from legislated to as needed when triggered by age and can be time sensitive. They are performed by both staff and third-party engineering consultants. Asset ratings follow this qualitative series from brand new to end of life and are based on the previous 2 years of condition data. Establishment of these ratings has helped to inform our current levels of service. Service metrics are prescribed for core assets under OREG 588-17, requiring both qualitative and technical metrics to describe their scope, quality, and reliability. Non-core asset service levels may be set by the municipality, but for this plan revision, average asset conditions will be used to describe service levels. For roads, the service quality is measured by surface conditions, and service scope is measured by the ratio of road kilometers to square kilometers of land by the community. These metrics were set by OREG 588-17. For bridges and structural culverts, quality is measured by the overall asset condition, and scope is measured by traffic usage restrictions. This means the type of transportation that is allowed to use those structures. And for sidewalks and streetlights, there are no prescribed metrics, being non-core assets, so average asset condition was used to describe the quality of services currently provided. The quality of services currently provided by facilities and public spaces was determined by averaging component conditions. The reliability of service provided by water assets must be measured by the number of boil water advisories and main breaks, and the scope of service is measured by the percentage of properties with available fire flow from municipal assets and the connection rate of properties in the community. For wastewater assets, the current service level is also informed by reliability, measured by the number of overflows, basement backups, and effluent violations per year due to wastewater discharge, and the scope of service is measured by the connection rate of properties in the community. For equipment, fleet, and guide rail assets, the average condition was used to measure the current quality of services being provided. After updating these current service levels for all assets, a review and update was conducted on life cycle strategies. Life cycle strategies must define the capital treatments to be performed on assets and the timing and cost of those activities. Life cycle strategies must define the capital treatments to be performed and guide long-term cost forecasts, which are the basis of the funding strategy. We have a life cycle example prepared by Jason, after which Adam will detail those funding strategies.
Thanks, Talia. Essentially, what you're seeing here is kind of the degradation cycle of a typical road. And usually the way that works is you can only kind of redo the surface of a road so many times before you actually need to get back down into the base and kind of rebuild from the base up, dealing with any drainage improvements or anything like that that might also be required. So in the example there, you can see that curve, how, you start at 100% good road and over time it degrades to a point, and then we will do a treatment repair, which doesn't ever get you right back to a brand new road. It gets you more to like a significant increase, but it's never like it's brand new, like fresh construction again. So the idea is that over time, you apply a treatment, it adds some life back to the road and extends the overall life. So it then starts decreasing from, say in this case, you drop from 100 to 92, and then we jump back up to like 95. And then we go from 95 to 85, and then we jump back to 90. So slowly, as time progresses, you keep making these investments. The road will eventually hit that trigger point, which at this point right now, I believe we have it marked at 40% on there.
Yeah.
So when the road gets to what we would say is a 40% condition, that's when we'd initiate a full reconstruction. In this case, this is our LCBR, our low class bituminous roads, which are tar and chip roads. One of the reasons we wanted to highlight this is, as Talia had shown in the graph, roads form a major expenditure for this municipality. And the majority of our roads fall into this category. So one of the things that I think Adam will talk a little bit later when we talk money and is the amount of money that it takes to continue to keep these assets up is one of the major drivers that we do have. I don't know if there's anything else we wanted to really cover on this slide, or if Adam had anything to add. Or no, he looks good. He looks good. So in this slide, it's the high class, which is our typical asphalt. You'll notice it follows a similar type pattern. The big difference with high class is there are other activities that you can do, like crack sealing. You can do microsurfacing. You may not do a full road reconstruction. You might just do like a typical shave and pave, where you'll just take that top layer off and put a new layer on. One of the things that you notice with this is the cost of those types of roads are significantly more intensive. And that is one of the reasons why many municipalities, Malahide included, typically likes to go with the low class. It is a more affordable option, especially for roads that are not nearly as high volume. You'll notice the county road network, for example, is typically all high class, and that's because those roads are intended for the heavy traffic, the heavy volumes, and they typically are built to that higher standard, which gives us the extra benefit of being able to have some of those surrounding road network be at a slightly less of a cost and less of a quality. So I think that kind of covers this slide. I don't think so.
And I'll just ask council, any questions on this concept before we go to the water system? Very clear, very well explained. Thank you.
So what Jason has gone over is a couple of examples of life cycle strategies that we apply against our assets, but we take this kind of thinking and apply it to all of our asset classes. And from that, we're able to make predictions about the costs of our infrastructure over time. We've broken down our funding strategy into 3 models based on who funds the related infrastructure. And the first is water. So for our water system, we know that we have around $54 million in infrastructure, primarily consisting of PVC water mains that were constructed in the 80s, the 90s, and early 2000s. The industry standard for estimated useful life of PC water main is 80 to 100 years. So conservatively speaking, we're estimating we've used about an average of a quarter of the useful life of the water mains to date. Based on these estimates, we believe that the town would be required to replace its underground system from the mid 2060s to 2080s. So we're talking very far out. Based on these historical trends, we estimate the cost to be somewhere close to 160 million for the first phase of replacements in the 2060s and 170 million for the second phase of replacements in the 2080s. So because we're forecasting so far out, these numbers can be really difficult to conceptualize. So instead, let's just look at where we're at today. Our water mains are about 25% used, and we have around $300,000 in reserves. So if the township's goal is to have those who are benefiting from the water system to pay for it, we would have to have around $13 million today to be on track to replace our infrastructure. So we're behind where we should be. However, we're in a position of opportunity because there's no significant costs expected over the next couple decades in the water system. The asset management plan's funding strategy is to build reserves through annual 5% rate increases. These increases would also cover operating costs as a result of inflation. We would take this funding, invest it in reserves today. It has the benefit of accruing compound interest over an extremely long period of time, so that the majority of the water system's replacement costs can be funded through investment income as opposed to water rates. Our model is based on annual investment returns of 7% per year compounding, which has historically been very achievable for the township. And so by the 2060s, when we're looking at that ridiculous price tag for our water main replacements, 134 million of it would be funded strictly through investment income. So under this model, we would fund about 70% of the water infrastructure through investment income as opposed to rates. So council does have other options. This is a more proactive model, but in terms of options, we can consider debt. It's worth mentioning that the province does have a mandated debt ceiling on municipalities. So the township can draw around 25 million based on our current limit of debt ceiling, though it does increase over time as the magnitude of revenue generated by the township increases. Because we would currently be able to replace a little less than half of the water system using our debt capacity, I'd assume that the same would be true in the future. So we could, at council's will, determine more of a debt servicing model as opposed strictly through rates and investment income, depending on how council feels about that option. Another consideration is to just not increase the water rates at all in the short term to build reserves. You don't have to. You won't see any negative effects because no significant costs are expected over the next couple decades, but this really is placing undue burden on future generations of the water system. So it's not recommended through the asset management plan. Moving on to sewer. Perhaps I should stop at water. I don't know what, there's a lot to take in there, I'm sure. I'll just check to see if there's any questions at this point.
Any questions or comments on the financing model? I guess, is there an opportunity to do a hybrid financing where you could do some debt and some through reserves?
There certainly is. We would just have to be selective about where we choose to apply our debt, right? Because we're going to talk about two more funding models. You may want to apply the debt or get debt capacity to those areas. But I will say of the three, yes, water probably could benefit the most from utilization of debt just because we are kind of behind the eight ball in that one in particular.
Okay, sounds like a good segue then to the next section. Go ahead.
So I'm glad there's not a lot of questions because sewer is very similar. It's very much a similar story. We know that we have around $15 million in sewer infrastructure, consisting of around 2/3 of that being underground infrastructure and 1/3 in pumping stations facilities. All this was built around the year 2000, as we know, so most of it's in really good shape at this point. The majority of the system wouldn't require replacement till the 2080s, with the exception of manholes, which we'd expect replacement to occur around 2040. So similar to our water system, we do have a choice to make. We can raise funding now and use investment income to predominantly fund infrastructure replacement, or we can defer the issue to the next generation or take on some amount of debt. Based on the current age and replacement cost of the system, ideally we would have around $3.5 million in sewer reserves today. We're at about $1 million, so not quite the gap that we're seeing on the water side. The purpose of the asset management plan, we've determined that what it would take to bridge this funding gap. We're estimating that 3.5 annual increases would be sufficient to cover our increasing operating costs as well as improve contributions to the sewer reserve for future infrastructure replacement. So because we're starting out with a little bit more money in reserves than water and have a longer investment window, investment income in this plan would cover about 80% of future infrastructure costs, with 20% coming from rates. Moving on to our property tax funded, that being our roads, bridges, facilities, equipment, vehicles, etc., everything else. Unlike water and sewer, where we The plan is to build up reserves over a very long period of time to fund these impossibly expensive replacement projects. This plan is more traditional in that we're already in a state of constantly needing to rehabilitate and replace our assets. So the gray bars here represent our expected capital costs, which have been determined by, again, applying our life cycle strategies like Jason illustrated against our existing asset inventory to forecast our future costs. The solid black line is our current reserve balance, and the dotted black line is our contributions to reserves, which is used to fully fund our capital projects. So as you can see, what we're contributing toward our annual capital program, represented by the dotted black line, is insufficient to fund our current annual capital expenditures. If left unaddressed, the township's reserves will be depleted and life cycle strategies established in our plan will not be able to be delivered. So this is something we've mentioned in past budget cycles. You have about a 5 to 6 year window if we keep with the long-term budget that we have in place and not increase our contributions to fund it. Your reserves should dry up and we'll stop being able to execute our life cycle strategies. So our property tax funded infrastructure does have a few positives going for it in that we already have some money in reserves to work with. We have a greater number of properties that contribute financially compared to our utility services. And we usually have some growth to apply some downward pressure to rates. We do have a challenge to face in the 2030s where we see spiking, 2039, 2040. So we see spiking costs of capital as a result of the majority of our HCB roads will require replacement around this time. So the financial plan recommends approximately 2.3% levy increases on average dedicated toward improving contributions to the capital reserve, which in turn funds the capital budget. So in summary, what staff is looking for from council tonight is just an approval of the asset management plan in principle to comply with the legislative requirements of the province. Approval of the plan tonight does not constitute a commitment to specific decisions at budget time. It's more of an acknowledgement that the plan conceptually can serve as the context for our budget discussions. And we're anticipating that the number of improvements to our next asset management plan will provide council a greater opportunity to participate in its formulation. And Talia has some additional information in that regard.
As Adam said, the next step is council endorsement of the 3 asset management plans before you tonight to ensure compliance with Regulation 588-17 and to assist with long-term planning. And then staff will continue to update these plans with new information as it becomes available to ensure accuracy. And we'll begin work on the next plan revision. The next revision must include proposed service levels for all assets forecasted for a minimum of 10 years with an explanation of why proposed service levels are appropriate, define the risk to long-term sustainability, and must include an analysis of the achievability and the affordability of these proposed services. This revision is due by Canada Day next year. And we're happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, let's open it up for discussion. But not all at once. Deputy Mayor Widner. And
Yes,
then
thank you,
Catherine.
Mayor. I guess through to Jason or whoever wants to answer. I'm looking at the vehicle things. I know you knew I would. And they're rated fair, a lot of them. But I guess you're rating them because this is an asset management plan. There's a different way to rate them. You're doing it on age and mileage. There's no actual, I went and looked at it in this shape.
Thank you. Through the chair to the deputy mayor. That's a good question. Right now, because we are not doing actual condition analysis of each individual piece, we're looking at the overall group and taking that group based on their age. So based on age alone, we're saying as an entire group of the entire fleet. And does that include fire or not?
Yes, it does.
It does include fire, which when they get nice new fire trucks, that helps bring up that average a little. And so that is why you're going to have that number. As we move forward, it's going to be something that we will look more at, how we can have a little bit more of that qualitative analysis in there. You know, what is the actual functionality of a vehicle, and is it working? Is it spending too much time in the shop? Is it, and looking at that quantitative side of things to see, how does it meet your needs? And those are all service level items that Talia had mentioned will be more looked at when we come back here about a year from now, and we have to have those established criteria at that point. So I guess suffice to say, there's going to be plenty of more discussion on how we are going to rate all of our assets, because this plan is really age-based only. Does that help?
Somewhat, because I'm looking, we probably bought 4 new pickups not too long ago, and new loaders and some new big trucks. So I just don't say they're fair, but I understand what you're saying. And you know what? They are inspected every year, so your condition asset of the assets should be pretty clear when we get them done. So, but I see what we're doing. This is a way to do this plan, and this is the way we're proceeding. So you can see what I'm coming at too, I think.
Right, and the fact that it's an average really skews things, right? Yeah. So, Counselor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to commend staff on this report. It's obviously no short-term thinking going on here. It's nice to see what the long-term ramifications are of our decisions. It's short-term thinking doesn't get the job done.
Further questions or comments? So it sounds, if I interpreted it correctly, then the age base, it's a compliance. It's like the province is saying, submit that first because we know it is likely the worst case scenario. And we want to make sure that all municipalities know their assets, know and they have a plan for a worst case scenario. And then it sounds like next year we finally have a bit more room for discretion around service levels as well, if we want to upgrade or downgrade something, including roads, and then adding additional qualitative data. So the fun part is coming up, actually, as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Godby.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Using roads as a good example. You kind of nailed it on the head. Like right now, our life cycle is based on an age replacement. However, we will get into the debate of what does that actual condition look like? Like, I mean, council has the ability to lower that standard to say, you know what, overall, we're going to only strive to have an average of a 50 road, as opposed to right now, our average is 60 something. I don't know off the top of my head. But so we're saying our paved are good. We could downgrade that to fair as a monetary savings over the long term. Those are the kind of discussions that can have, and that gives council the ability to kind of balance the financials of things versus that service level and what the community expectations are. That also really starts to apply to some of the non-core assets, which are typically more the discretionary funding things. You know, it's nice to always have a nice park, but does it need to be very good? Or is it acceptable to lower that standard, lower the level of investment? And those are the kind of discussions and flexibility that we're going to be working with you on over the next year in anticipation of these next plans that are going to be required for next Canada Day.
Councillor Cerna.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that we always talk about public input. And it's gonna be very important to do that, because once you set a standard and you start to want to take that down, it's not between staff and council. It's gonna be between staff, council, and the public. Because once you stop cutting grass, or you leave a pothole there, or just something like that, they're the ones that are gonna complain. And they're the ones that are gonna kick our butt. And you're gonna hear it more from them than anything else. And they're gonna be the ones that are gonna set the standard, not us. And that's what's gonna happen. So we want to make sure that everybody's happy. And that's the thing, they're paying the bills. So it's not up to us to set the standard, it's up to them. So we got to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And what it does though, is it shows the public also what is the cost of the standard they want. So we can show option A, option B, this is what very good costs it. So they can be more informed into how much am I willing to pay for that? So I think it makes it very transparent and as, you know, and as an informed decision. Councillor Leach.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So if we as a council decided to say, oh, let's keep all our roads at fair, does that not in the long term impact the overall cost? Because then it's going to cost more to bring them back up over time. Like the longer they slide, the further down our graphs we get in terms of replacement.
Through the chair, to a degree, yes. When you get to the bottom of life of a road, you end up, let's say on the capital side, you degrade your road down to the point where it's in poor condition. If it gets to that point and you're meeting minimum maintenance standards, it just stays there. Like the road doesn't fall down like a bridge, right? So the road is, as long as it's still drivable, as long as it's still passable, you can do those kind of things. Sorry, I didn't even realize that I said it. I apologize. But you know what I mean? Like a road will be full of potholes and we'll throw cold patch in it and we'll throw cold patch. So it'll have negative impacts on the annual operating budgets. But you can essentially limp something like that along for a very long time in a very poor state, using the roads as an example.
CO Diaz.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And if I may just follow up to that, part of the strategy here is also for staff to determine the best life cycle strategy in order to keep that asset and balance its maintenance with the level of service that council is expecting. So by looking at it long term, we can do that forecast and determine how things can go. And part of it, again, is forecast. This is a forecast that goes many years into the future. So there's always going to be circumstances which will come into play. A big factor is, again, government legislation. That could be a new regulation that puts a new standard for us maintaining an asset. Certainly that's the case with water and wastewater infrastructure all the time. You can continue maintaining an asset for a very long time and then all of a sudden find out you have a surprise $1 million capital that you need to put in order to meet government regulation. So again, it's a forecast, but there are always factors that come into play, and it's pretty much going to be a living document. It isn't going to be put on the shelf where we'll have to revisit and keep it aligned with our long-term financial strategy.
Thank you for that. And I always say you can't change a plan unless you have a plan. So I think having a baseline will be very, very useful. The other thing that this is, because it's so well laid out, and clearly laid out, is also justifying the reserves. I think at the time of budget, we often get inquiries about why you taking all of my money into your own savings account. Why can't I keep this money in my own savings account and, you know, invest it myself? So this helps to show why and the consequences if we don't. So it's a good tool for communicating and making decisions together. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Not who can answer it, but I notice our administrative department, like, looks like computers in the picture. They're all in poor condition. I thought at one time we leased those. I know we did one time, a long time ago. And they were always replaced when they needed to be. Is that still the situation, or do we own them, or are we in that bad a shape? Just curious.
Through, yeah, through your worship. Yes, we do own them. This is an average though. So we do have a number of newer quality machines that we use for day-to-day business, but we have older machines that have been cycled out of day-to-day business that we still use as backups. So they're bringing the average down.
But there's really we're not having any problems running the place. Just Adam's chair is the big problem, I guess. Thank you. Good for you.
Have a frugal treasurer. Like old computer, old chair. Mr. Gobby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to express my gratitude to Adam and Talia for all their work on this. I didn't really do much other than hang out and try and help out where I can. They've really put a lot of work into this, and I think that they need to be commended for that, pulling all this information together and in a great presentation to go with it. Makes it very clear for everyone. So I just want to say I appreciate that from both of you.
Thank you. And I think council probably echoes that as well. It does come across very well done as a good team effort. So much appreciated. We have set that new standard of clear communication and presentation, and I like that. Further questions or comments? Sounds like we're good. So may I have a motion, please?
The report number FIN 2417 entitled Asset Management Plan Update be received, and that council approve and endorse the township's 2024 asset management plans as appended.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Again, thank you for all the work and looking forward to the upcoming year, further discussions. For now, we'll move on the agenda to reports from the Building Planning Department. We have a severance application and Mr. Steele is back. Over to you.
Thank you. Before council tonight is a consent application, which purposes to sever an existing farm dwelling that's become surplus as a result of farm consolidation at 11980 Imperial Road. The application also proposes to establish an easement for shared access between the severed and retained parcels. Staff will review the application against the applicable policies and criteria, provincial policy statement, official plans, and zoning bylaw, and find that meets all applicable criteria. And so staff will recommend that the application be supported and the recommended conditions be forwarded to Land Division Committee for its consideration. And that concludes the presentation. I have any questions from members of council.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Whitner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Through to Eric. Eric, I know there's two houses on there and it's noted in here. Are they both being severed off as a pair?
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor. So the application was originally submitted as for severance of one of the two dwellings, which is currently proposed. It is noted that or staff had a conversation with the applicant on whether they proceeded with severing both, but it's noted that the proposed changes to provincial policy statement would limit the number of surplus farm dwellings that can be severed from one parcel. And so the applicant proceed with just the severance of the one parcel, considering that it's expected that those changes to the PPS are going to come very soon and be in effect.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Further comments or questions? Councilor Leach?
Through Madam Mayor to Eric. So the easement, where does ownership lie with an easement?
Through your worship to the councillor, so easement, the ownership of the easement would remain with the proposed severed parcel, And the easement then would be an instrument that's registered on title that would grant a legal right of access to the owner of the retained parcel. They'd be able to use that land for the explicit purpose of access to Imperial Road.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none, the motion please.
The report number DS 2413 entitled Application for Consent to Sever E1224 of Beelman Farms, Inc., authorized agent David Rowe, be received, and that the application for consent to sever of Beelman Farms, Inc., relating to the property located at parts of lot 11 and 12, concession 9, Township of Malahide, and known municipally as 11960 and 11980 Imperial Road, be supported for the reasons set out in this report, and that this report and the recommended conditions be forwarded to the Land Division Committee for its review and consideration.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Lewis second. All in favor? That is carried. And Mr. Steele, we have a second application for another severance. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This application D10-E38-24 is a consent application to permit a lot addition to convey approximately 402 square meters or 0.01 acres of land from the farm property at 48028 Wilson Line and 48024 Wilson Line. Land to be conveyed represents approximately a 9-meter or 30-foot wide strip that's intended to be conveyed to facilitate the construction of a building to accommodate a home occupation for a motor vehicle repair business. A lot of adjustments are permitted under both the official or PPS and official plans in prime agriculture areas for legal or technical reasons, including a minor boundary adjustment. And given the small scale of the amount of land to be conveyed and that no land is going to be removed from agricultural production, the proposed boundary adjustment would meet this test of being minor in nature. It is noted that the subject lands were subject to a previous zoning bylaw amendment application that was received 2 readings from council. And the 3rd reading has been, in final passing, has been withheld until the lot addition has been approved by Land Division Committee. And so in conclusion, staff will recommend that the application be supported and that the recommended conditions be provided to the County Land Division Committee for its consideration. And that concludes my presentation. I have questions from members of council.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, the resolution, please.
That report number DS 2429 entitled Application for Consent to Sever number D10-E3824 of Kenneth Drabick on behalf of Anchor Farm Limited, authorized agent Civic Planning Solutions, David Rowe, be received, and that the application for consent to sever of Kenneth Drabick on behalf of Anchor Farms Limited, authorized agent Civic Planning Solutions relating to the property located at Lot 18, Concession 8, South Dorchester, Part 2 of RP 11R 10007, former geographic township of South Dorchester, Township of Malahide, and known municipally as 48028 Wilson Line, be supported for the reasons set out in this report, and that this report and the recommended conditions be forwarded to the Land Division Committee for its review and consideration.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Mr. Steele. I think those are all your reports this evening. Have a nice evening.
You as well.
So we'll move to our GIS Shared Services Agreement, CO Diaz.
So Elgin County has established and operated a web-based GIS platform called Elgin GeoHub since 2021, and it's been used by the county, local municipalities, and the general public. A GIS web-based platform is used for users to create, share, and analyze and visualize spatial data and maps. Key features include data storage, such as our assets are mapped on there, map creation, analysis tools, for instance, to determine the proximity of property related to other properties for planning considerations, data visualization, and the sharing and collaboration of information spatially. The need for this agreement was due to the formalization of the current GIS service arrangements and ensuring compliance with municipal asset management planning regulation and enhancing services for land use planning and municipal drainage, 911 addressing, and more. The key services that will be provided by the county include secure access, administration, data backup, data set maintenance, data hosting, training, data circulation, ongoing maintenance, and data entry. They will be providing these services at no additional cost, though if we did want to have any additional services, that is a possibility, which will be charged currently at $75 an hour. This will help strategically maximize the use of technology and resources and improve access to information for constituents, landowners, and businesses.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Councillor Leach?
You, Madam Mayor. In trying to find the GeoHub on the Elgin County site, it was quite challenging as it's nested under engineering. Would it be possible to ask Elgin County to place it in the services on its own tab as opposed to buried somewhere else so it's more accessible?
Through you, your worship, absolutely. It's something I think in the real challenge with all of our web-based applications is just the accessibility, and that's an ongoing challenge. So we can certainly share that feedback with the county and plan on how we can make it more user-friendly.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think something similar was mentioned at when this was reviewed at County Council. And the comment was made that even just promoting the tool and making the public aware that it is available, sometimes it would save a lot of inquiries. And so yes, so fine, it needs more prominence on the website. So we will definitely pass that along. Any further questions? Councillor Wilson, did I remember?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I was just wondering about, I guess, accuracy of the information that's on there. It's great to have the database, but if it's the accuracy of it isn't there, that's not exactly beneficial either. So I'm not, I've just heard that some of the data that we have is inaccurate. I guess I could say that. So any improvements would be great.
Any comment from staff on that?
Through you, your worship, it really depends on the purpose of what the data is being utilized for. For many circumstances, right, for the real, what do you say, majority of circumstances, it provides us to the caliber that we need. And again, allows us to utilize information, for instance, where we can pull property boundaries to give us that general information needed. Now, will it really constitute as a replacement for a survey? No, it wouldn't. At that point, you still need a Ontario land surveyor to give you that detailed level of information. Can it replace, for instance, CAD diagrams? I wouldn't recommend it. I think it's always a challenge to meet that accuracy as much as possible. There could be those circumstances where, depending on what you're using it for, the GIS perhaps isn't the best methodology to use in that circumstance. I don't know if there's any further questions from further information that staff may want to provide for this as well.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I guess just a general comment on the GIS as a whole. We do recognize that there is some very high value in having some of this information out there. I also have some concern with accuracy of things. It's inherent in my mind in the system. Like a lot of the stuff you see on there, like for example, you can go and look up and see where water mains are generally or where sewer mains are generally. It'd give you the general idea of that these services exist. But when you get down to the actual local level, the accuracy is never quite there. Just in general for things that we have, I mean, as time goes on, we're constantly looking at this and seeing how we can improve. A great example is municipal drain mapping there's a couple different data sets currently on there. And that's, kind of a beef of my own as to look to how can we correct this? And as we go forward, we'll be constantly looking at how we can improve the accuracy and the quality of everything that we have on the site. I guess just saying that for clarity, that is not one of the services that is provided by this agreement. This agreement would be to host any of that kind of local Malahide-owned data on their server and display it for everyone, but not necessarily for Elgin County to be the ones responsible to create or update or maintain Malahide's information.
Good clarification. Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, we'll proceed with the resolution, please.
The report number DS 2426 entitled Geographical Information Systems Shared Services Agreement be received, and that Malahide Council authorized to execute the Geographical Information Systems Shared Services Agreement with the County of Elgin.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach moves. Counselor Cerna seconds. All in favor? That is carried. We'll proceed then to reports of committees and outside boards. So we have minutes from the last ECC meeting on May 8th and also the minutes of the KCCA meeting of April 17th. Any questions or comments on those? Seeing none, the motion please.
That the following reports of committees and outside boards be noted and filed: ECC draft minutes of May 8, 2024, and Kettle Creek Conservation Authority minutes of April 27th, 2024.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Cerna seconds, all in favor? That is carried. Next, we have correspondence. There are 9 items. Anyone wishes to comment, endorse? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just going to comment on number 9 about the environmental concern for Roundup use. This person got a lot of information on how good it is. It's been out there a long time. There's been a lot of tests on it. If they got a better answer for this stuff, come up with it, unless they want to eat milkweed and grass and whatever, like, it makes the farmers look bad. And you know what, in reality, the residential use way more Roundup than the farms do. So anyway, just thought I'd comment on that. Is there going to be new business too? I see it's removed. Where is it?
Not on the resolution. But it's.
Okay, as long as there is. H?
Any further comments then on correspondence? Counselor Leach?
I just want to highlight that Springfield Family Fun Day is coming up, and so it's going to be quite an exciting day in 2 Saturdays. So, and the firemen are putting on the supper that evening, so. And the optimists are doing breakfast, so you can get pretty much every meal you want.
You've got the whole day covered. You don't need to go anywhere. Excellent. Thank you for that reminder. Counselor Wilson?
I was just going to bring up Springfield Family Fun Day as well. Should be a great event.
Excellent. We have the resolution for the correspondence, please.
That the following 9 items be noted and filed.
Mover and seconder, please. To receive the correspondence, Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Lewis seconds, all in favor? That is carried. Next is other business. Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted a little announcement. This week, sadly, we lost one of the icons in our neighborhood at 103 years old, Alec Wood. He was still farming up to the end, and he was just sharp as a tack, and he was quite a character. I got a couple good stories about him, but I won't share them right now. But he was a character and a really good guy. So I took him a plaque at 100. I don't think I'll ever do that again for anybody else because no, the way he lived. But anyway, I just thought I'd pass that along. Thank you. Okay, I won't.
Thank you for that. Counselor Cerna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last night, had the pleasure, along with Councillor Leach and Deputy Mayor Widner, of attending the fireman's graduation at South Station. Guests of our fire chief, and made me quite proud. I'm sure we all were. Deputy Mayor gave a great speech, and watching our Malahide recruits as well as every other municipalities recruits with their enthusiasm, their just watch them along the path they chose to become firefighters, and how great it was to see them all be so enthusiastic with their new career paths. And also the fact that being in that building and watching our department host, it just made me so proud. And my hat's off to the fire chief to be so proud of being in our building, hosting everybody, knowing that, God, what a building. I'm so proud to be part of that building, and proud of being a Malahide counselor. And Chief Spore, you knocked yourself out and did the best job in the world last night. So thank you very much for hosting and making us feel great. Thank you.
I'm just going to comment back. Thank you, Councillor, through you, Mayor. I appreciate your council's attendance last night. It was great. And like I said, I thank you for your attendance. The 300 plus people we had there were all impressed with our township and how the organization works, and how we work together with all the neighbor municipalities to make this work for everybody. It keeps our costs down, a reasonable price for training, where we're not sending people far distances away, and it makes it a lot easier for our local people too. So it's a great day, and I'm glad to see it. And hopefully that other counselors too, if they're able to attend in other years, maybe will come and join us as well, because it's a great thing and it looks good for us. So thank you.
I might add that I think it was my vote that made that place fly. I'm not sure, but just wanted to add that.
Thank you for those remarks, and yes, congratulations for the hosts and to all the graduates as well. So that is another great news story. Thank you for that, Councillor Cerna. There no other business? We'll proceed with bylaws, please.
That the following bylaws be considered read a first, second, and third reading and properly signed and sealed. Bylaw 2430 to appoint CBO and building inspectors, and bylaw 2427 for the GIS services agreement.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Councillor Lewis moves. Councillor Leach seconds. All in favor? That is carried. We do not have any items for closed session, so we'll move to confirmatory bylaw.
The bylaw number 2432 being a confirmatory bylaw be given first, second, and third reading and properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Leach moves. Councillor Cerna seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Which brings us to adjournment.
The council adjourned its meeting at 9 p.m. to meet again on June 20th, 2024.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Councillor Cerna seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.